Who are my extroverts? Who are my introverts? You are my people. I know what you're thinking. Courtney, you're in theater. Courtney, you're an actor. You love being on stage. You love being in front of an audience. I love being on stage in front of an audience when I'm pretending to be someone else. Because the scariest thing for me is to just be Courtney. Because you see, Courtney has anxiety. Courtney's brain moves faster than her mouth does, and she gets tongue-tied. Courtney has 2 degrees in theater and none in theology, and yet here we are, because sometimes God has bigger plans than I do. In fact, sometimes God gives you an opportunity. He will often give it to you twice, because I definitely said no to doing this 3 years ago when they asked me. But here I am, because God knows and I don't. Galatians 6:4 in the Message translation says, "Make a careful exploration of who you are and the work you have been given, and sink yourself into that. Don't be impressed by yourself. Don't compare yourself with others." One more time for the people in the back. Don't compare yourself with others. Each of you must take responsibility for doing the creative best you can with your own life. To break it down, Theodore Roosevelt said, "Comparison is the thief of joy." In other words, and hear me real good, no one on the planet can do the thing God has called you to do the way He has called you to do it. Jeremiah 1:5, again in the Message translation says, "Before I shaped you in the womb, I knew all about you. Before you saw the light of day, I had holy plans for you, a prophet to the nations. That's what I had in mind for you." There is only one you. There was not another you before you were born. There will not be another you after you are gone. You are fearfully and wonderfully made, and the same God who created the heavens and the earth created you to do that thing the way only you can do it. In my acting classes, we talk about bringing our real individual hearts to our work. For example, there are 1,000 people in here, and if we were doing the play Hamlet, we would have 1,000 different Hamlets. And you want to know why that is? Because we're all different. You are uniquely you, and you are enough. And when you are not enough, God is more than enough, and He will meet you where you are at. Think about this for a moment. We spend all of our time scrolling and watching highlights of people that we don't even know, and we get jealous or unsatisfied with our own lives based on what? A 30-second clip that someone spent like 5 hours editing and then cut out everything that made them look like a real person. How often do we measure our success or our self-worth based on the standards set by other people? Comparison is the thief of joy. And what is joy? Nehemiah 8:10 says, "The joy of the Lord is our strength." And it comes from embracing who God has called you to be, recognizing your unique gifts and talents, and allowing the Holy Spirit to use them to the glory of God and in service to others. When we compare ourselves to others, we lose sight of the blessings and the significance of what God is doing in our own lives. As an actor, I audition a lot, and sometimes I get cast, and sometimes I don't. And yes, of course, when I don't get it, I'm disappointed. And yes, of course, I compare myself, and I think, oh, well, if I looked like her, or if I did that thing instead of this thing, or whatever else. But then I take a step back, and I recognize that this thing that I wanted so badly was not for me. That God has something else in mind, something that is better for me, and that's okay. In fact, that's great. About a month ago, I heard a message from Bishop T.D. Jakes, and he said, "What God has for you is for you." Because what that means is this: if I'm doing the thing that God has called me to do, and I'm putting in the work, and I'm walking through the doors He's opened for me, and I'm not having a fit about the ones that He has closed, I'm gonna get the things that He has set aside specifically for me. And I have to, because they're mine. He created them for me. So, you see, there's no reason for us to be jealous or bitter or resentful when things don't go our way. Those things were not meant for us. They were meant for someone else. And I thank God for that, because that means he has something that is so perfect for me, I can't even imagine it. So, how do I stop comparing myself from everyone else and I find my joy? I shift my focus. I look at my life and God's tremendous blessings. I try to be, as my husband says, generous of spirit. And I thank God for all of the things he's done for me. I acknowledge my imperfections and I celebrate my successes, because no matter how small it is, nothing is insignificant with God. I want to encourage you with one last thing. Lead each day with grace. Grace for yourself and for those around you. God has each of us on our own path. We are all doing the best we can. We're just listening to the voice of the Holy Spirit and to his direction. You are uniquely you, and what God has for you is for you. Trust him. You're going to be just fine.